Góðan daginn gott fólk, velkomin á opinberumessuna. Hér ætlum við að fara yfir upplýsingatækni og opinbera geira. Og maður verður nú alltaf fyrst hugsa til svona hins opinbera og það var nú alltaf liður í tilkynningu sem heit frá hinu opinbera. En ég held að við séum svona meira kannski að fjalla það svona fyrir hið opinbera í þessum. Ég ætla að biðja ykkur að setja GSM-síman á silent hérna og við munum fara í gegnum fyrirlestrana í heilu lagi og hafa spurningar, stuttaspurningar eftir hvern og einn. Þetta eru aðeins óskyldir. Og ég vil endilega ítreka að það eru sem sagt verður ráðstefnumat, það er búinn ráðstefnumatur og það er ráðstefnumat eftir þar sem við erum hvött til þess að fylla út og gefa einhvern fyrir ráðstefnuna og fyrirlesana. Sjálfur heiti Hilmar Janusson er sviðsforseti verkfræði- og náttúruvísindasviðs Háskóla Íslands. En án þess að tefja frekar þá vil ég hefja dagskrána og fyrsti fyrirlesturinn er Open PEPPOL, það er Effective E-Procurement in Europe. Það er Sven Róskar Rasmussen, kemur frá fjármálaráðuneytinu sem er skrifstofa raftækni í Danmörku. Hann er með meistaragráðu frá Technical University of Denmark og Mr. Rasmussen also has a 15 years experience with design, development and implementation of IT solutions both for public and private enterprises. The Director of Open People Transport Infrastructure, member of the Open People, is it PEPPOL or People? PEPPOL, Open PEPPOL Managing Committee with responsibility for the PEPPOL network operation and governance. He's a lead architect and eSense with focus on provision of consolidated digital infrastructure solutions for European cross-border e-government services and within. So welcome, Sven Róskar Rasmussen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I was considering to doing this presentation in Danish, but I will spare you for the difficulties since it's already prepared in English as well. As I understood from the introduction, you already got the information that I'm from the Ministry of Finance in Denmark and have the role of leading the network operations in the Open PEPPOL Association and also taking part in the eSense project. I will talk a little bit today about the Open PEPPOL organization, how it's structured and what the objectives are. I will go into some topics on the solution architecture that we have designed and implemented in Open PEPPOL. I will speak somewhat about the legislation process for the e-invoicing activities that is currently being led by the European Commission. And then I will get back to some of the topics on advantages and what are the options of using PEPPOL, what can you expect and what can you get benefits from using PEPPOL. So as you can understand, I'm not here, I'm here promoting PEPPOL, but I'm not selling PEPPOL because it's in the public domain. It's available to anybody who wants to use it as such. So the vision, the vision for PEPPOL is to enable businesses to communicate with European government institutions in order to increase efficiency and reduce cost. So the starting point for PEPPOL is the public procurement, and it's about saving money. That's basically it. PEPPOL was a co-funded project between the European Commission and 11 member states that ran from 2008 to 12. And we completed in September 2012, and after that we followed up with the establishment of Open PEPPOL, which is a non-profit organization in Belgium, to take over the governance and to ensure the operations of the services. Establishing an organization like Open PEPL, you need to go through what is actually your objectives. And from the statutes that is being part of the establishment, we have defined that we strive to promote the widely usage of widely accepted technologies and standards, and promoting them as PEPL specifications for e-commerce and dealing electronically between public sector and the buyers. We provide the authoritative point of reference for the network interoperable infrastructure and the organizations that use it. Our focus is on long-term sustainability for the infrastructure and for the network components in the user communities. Ensuring the sustainability for the specification and the building block and services. So this is basically saying that we want to promote the use of the PEPL building blocks and the specification, and we want to make sure that this is done in a sustainable way for the long term. Open PEPL is a members association. At the lower level here, we have the Open PEPL General Assembly, where every member of the association have a representation. They take part in the coordinating communities that we have at the second level. At least one coordinating community is required for a member to participate in. And currently, this is reflecting our official statutes, where we have defined the establishment of the pre-award, the e-signature EID, the post-award, and the transport infrastructure coordinating communities. The pre-award and the e-signature and EID are basically dealing with specifications and services to provide for the public tender of goods and services, and also for infrastructure components to do e-signature validation. We have achieved some results in the PEPL project on these two areas, but it's more or less experimental, and it needs further development, further maturing before it is ready to be adopted in a wider scale. On the post-award, we are dealing with specifications for e-invoicing, but also for e-catalogs and e-ordering. We have reached quite a significant level of maturity in this area. It's out in the market, it's being adopted by many users, it's running every day. And this is also the case for the transport infrastructure, which is the operation of central services and the governance of the specifications, provision of open source software for implementing network connectivity. Each of the coordinating community elects a CC leader, and the coordinating community leaders are members of the managing committee. The managing committee can be seen as the executive board of the association, and as it is indicated on the far right, we also have an option of electing one or two members from the General Assembly directly into the Open PEPL Managing Committee. And I'm happy to say that at the General Assembly that we had Wednesday last week in Brussels, we elected Niels Pagh Rasmussen from IBM as a representative from service providers, and Scott Bell from Scottish Government as a representative for government and public institutions. The Open PEPL Managing Committee then elects the Secretary General, which have the overall responsibility for the day-to-day operation. He is supported by the operating office, who is doing secretary and administrative support functions. Secretary General is Andre Hardevik from DIFI in Norway. Andre was leading the PEPL project as the project coordinator and has continued with strongly support for the activity in Open PEPL. So, what's the size of Open PEPL? Well, we started out with 11 member states that joined into a project, and nobody at that time could say for certain if this was going to continue after the project. A project is defined by a start and an end, and it produces some results. Now, we have gone from that situation where we were a temporary organization after establishing the Open PEPL AISPL. We have now approximately 100 members in the association. And we have now reached about plus 70 service providers. Service providers, you can say they are like vans operators in a traditional terminology. They are providing network connectivity services for their customers, interoperable into the Peppol network. We have a budget of 200,000 euros. This is a very small budget, but it's evident that without contributions of in-kind contributions like the participation of the members in the managing committee, participation from both government agencies, but also service providers in working groups to define and update specifications, to define life cycle management routines, etc., we would never have reached the results that we have now. But still, the budget of 200,000 is mainly based on membership fees from the members into the organization. To give you an idea of what we actually are dealing with, what are the components in the Peppol solution? This slide shows you an overall perspective on the e-procurement as we see it, with the tendering part on the left side being the process of calling for tenders, negotiating and closing public tenders for goods and services. After the awarding of a contract, we enter into the purchasing phase, which is basically catalogs, order and invoice and payment process that is usually being done on the grounds of an already established contract. And the boxes here marked with yellow are the boxes that is supported by the Peppol components. So in addition to the post-award process of catalog, order and invoice, we also have use of e-catalog in the pre-award phase as an attachment to an offer. The VCD, virtual company dossier, can be used in e-attestation part of the qualification process, for example. And e-signature have a broad scope of applications. If you want to sign an order, you can do that, but definitely you want to sign a tender in order to make sure that it's being treated as a valid offer. And then, of course, the Peppol transport infrastructure, which is the basis for exchange of business document and messages within the network. The idea of the Peppol architecture and our objective is to enable businesses and contracting authorities to exchange messages as part of a business transaction in a business process. And we recognize that communities have been established in different countries or parts of countries and has been more or less mature in the past, and in many cases they have established formats and established systems and structures. So the overall objective is to create the means of connecting these islands of e-procurement, or these communities of e-procurement. So the architecture that is shown here, and we'll get back to that in a little more detail, is indicated that a community within a country can continue to operate the way it has been doing previously, but by connecting it to the Peppol network through an access point that operates as a gateway, you can achieve the interoperability between the communities without changing your existing systems and solutions. Of course, you need to adhere to the process of, for instance, if you send an order and you need an order response, then you need to reflect that capability within your own system. But usually that's a business requirement, and probably it's already supported if you do that kind of business within your own community. So this is about creating the interoperability framework to connect communities that is already established. Another objective is to be the default set of solutions if you don't have an existing network, if you don't have an existing implementation of e-business, then you can use the components directly into your community. So from an overview here. The point is that the network is connecting the existing communities, supporting secure and safe connectivity with the standard requirements for authentication, confidentiality, and etc. But also, in a very important point, when you connect to the PEPPOL network, you just connect once. You don't need to connect to different service providers to have bilateral agreement with a number of communities. You establish one connection into the PEPPOL infrastructure and the PEPPOL network, and then you can do business with any participant that is connected through any way into the solution. This slide also illustrates that there are different topologies. Some communities may be established through a central configuration of a web portal or a purchasing portal. It could be a big vans operator that have a community around himself, or it could be a national infrastructure that have different characteristics. And also I mentioned here ePrior. ePrior is the commission system for procuring stuff to the commission. They are connected to the PEPPOL network through an access point. Here we have a slide that will show you how the lookup and how the flow of information in the network is established. We have a number of components in this slide here. These access points are the connectivity enabling components that enables an operator to connect into the network. And we have a central registry of recipients. This is a very thin layer of a registry containing information about the logical identifiers that identifies a recipient. It could typically be a GLN number or a public registered VAT number or something like this. And this registry then points to service metadata publisher services where the actual metadata on the participants are stored and can be looked up. And this includes information about what document and processes a recipient supports and where you should send the document so that it will ultimately reach the recipient. So the process is that we have a company here in country A. It wants to send a document to a company here in the other country. So first step is to create the document and pass it on to the service provider's access point. We do a lookup in the SML. This is integrated with the DNS internet services, so it's quite straightforward and simple technology. The response is a very simple information, a URL to this SMP, where you need to go to find the details about the recipient. The next step is to look up into the SMP with the information about the identifier, the document type, and which profile you're using. And you get a response back stating where you want to send this document to reach the recipient. For the benefit of this slide, it turns out that we send the document to the access point 2, here the operator 2. Now what only remains is the process of doing the internal routing and delivery to the recipient. This part over here, the SML and the SMP, is basically a distributed registry, and it's targeted for the technical usage of routing and capability lookup. So it's not a registry where you can say, well, I need somebody who can supply me with office supplies or with aircraft carriers or something like this. It's not a business registry. It's a registry of participants and how you reach them in the network. And I think that's part of the success. It's kept simple, and some of the processes are out of scope for the technical solution at this point in time. All right. Maybe I need to speed up a little bit in order to reach this in time. From the presentation on the solution architecture, I'll go into some of the topics on the adoption and on e-invoicing in Europe, and then we'll get back to the benefits at the end. This slide shows basically a list of some of the countries that have been more or less strongly engaged and is already adopting PEPL as an infrastructure for this purpose. Norway is the PEPL country number 1. That's basically it. Norway didn't have an existing infrastructure for public procurement when they started the PEPL project, so all legislation and all implementation of e-invoicing and other processes in Norway have been based on PEPL for the last few years. So here we have the strongest adoption. But in Sweden, it has been decided also to move ahead from the Svefaktura and add the adoption of the PEPL BIS specifications into the Swedish market directly. Denmark have an existing infrastructure in the Easy Trade platform, but we do establish gateways so it's possible for a PEPL connected business to send documents to the public sector in Denmark through the PEPL network and the gateway. And then we have a number of additional countries here that is in process. I will mention the Netherlands that have had a pilot project for simpler invoicing, their local brand for their community. It was done, I think, in just 3 months on PEPL infrastructure, and they went into production right after the pilots ended in October months. And for the last country that we have here, we have the National Certification Authority in Russia, enabled with Access Point, looking to business connecting Russia with Europe, also on e-commerce platform. Now, the directive for e-invoicing in Europe, which is driven by the European Commission, recognizes the lots of savings by moving from paper-based transactions into electronic transactions. So in order to achieve this, we need to eliminate the barriers of cross-border public procurement, and we need to implement standards for e-invoicing and public procurement, and simplify the process for connecting businesses and SMEs in particular. But we also have the option of getting better transparency, better possibilities to do auditing, etc. It's probably not one of the drivers in the Nordic countries, but in other parts of Europe, this is a very big incentive. The directive states that the standard for a semantic data model should be built on existing pieces of work in this area. And in the directive, works from CEN and ISO and UN-CFAC are mentioned. It's also stated that electronic signature should not be required, but that the solutions will be based on the semantic reference model. This will be defined by CEN with the status of a European norm. It defines the core invoice that can be extended to national requirements or industry-specific requirements. And it definitely is something that will affect all public entities in Europe, meaning the European member state, but also the agencies in the economic zone area that I think will have an impact for you in Iceland as well. It requires the contracting authorities to accept messages based on any syntax type accepted in this process, and it allows for multiple syntaxes to be used. Now, the PEPL position here is that the number of syntaxes that should be supported should be reduced. Also, that the implementation time in the proposal was too long. I think it was 4 years. It should be no more than 2 years after the standard specifications are ready. We think that the work in BII, the CEN workshops in BII, have proven to be the excellent starting point for the work in CEN, and we think that the PEPL BIS should be used as basis for an implementation model that can be rolled out through Europe. Now, for Open PEPL, where are we now in the process? What did we achieve in 2013? That was sort of the first full year of operation. Well, we had a lot of focus on the network operations, the technical stuff with the security features of the PKI and the directory services, but also the recruitment and onboarding of up to these plus 70 service providers, reaching a number of 500,000 transactions every month. This is not a lot compared to the vans industry as a whole, but it's quite significant in this kind of project that is really in an exponential growth phase now. We did 12 months to the first million, 3 months to the second million, and now we're doing 500,000 every month and still growing. We focused a lot of specifications and development of a Peppol AS2 specification to have more efficient messaging between access points. We have upgraded the specifications for catalog, order and invoice, and dispatch advice to be based on the BAI2 workshop results. The focus for this year will be on scalability and adoption. We want new Peppol authorities that can take local responsibility in as many countries as possible. We will onboard industry sectors, and we have strong interest from Swedish construction industry, but also from wholesale industry that is looking very promising at this time. And we will continue to focus on the long-term sustainability, including standard development efforts. Peppol do not do standards, but we support the standards development in Oasis and in SEN. So that's where we give our contributions to the standardization and the benefits from that. So what's the value proposition for a community to consider using the Peppol components and the Peppol services? Well, first of all, I think it's proven that it works. And if you want to establish e-invoicing, which is on top of many countries' list of activities in e-procurement, I think we have a pretty good value proposition with the collective set of building blocks being kind of a starter kit. We have the network services and operation. We have invoice format specifications that in detail describe how to create digital invoices, but also for the other part of the supply chain part. So you're not limited. After you have implemented the invoice, you probably want to do order and other documents. We have open source software supported by the Commission with DG Digit and Oxalis, which is also a popular open source implementation. We have test and conformance services, and then last but not least, we have governance in place, guidelines, support and lifecycle management, based on the requirements from the members and the users. All our solutions are based on standards, mainly from the Oasis, UBL for the business language, the BusDocs TC for the components in the network operation. And as mentioned, I believe this is mature and ready for continued mission-critical deployment. What is then the effects that you can expect when implementing Peppol? First of all, you can expect to save money. You can cut budgets on administrative functions, and you can have a better functioning public procurement operation. But you also get the advantage in the marketplace that you have a more competitive market also for the services offered in the e-procurement area. And when you get over the sort of the critical mass, you will see a lot of innovative solution being developed, providing better solution and lower prices for the participants that is engaging here. Even though the prices of transactions may be lowered, the actual market value will increase. So there is a lot of business to be made for everybody in this process. And then last, also the increased value of transparency, and you will support the businesses in having a stronger starting point for doing cross-border transactions. So that's basically it. I think I'm on time. So if there are any questions, maybe?
Yeah, maybe one or two questions. Þetta spurningar ef það þarf að þýða þá er það bara fram á íslensku.
Thank you. Sorry?
You might want to tell us what Peppol stands for.
Ah, yeah, okay. The PEPL acronym stands for Pan-European Public Procurement Online. So it's not very easy, but it's become the trademark.
Does the PEPL have any role in disputes between service providers?
Yes, we do. I haven't been going much into the details of the governance between service providers, but instead of doing a bilateral agreement, you do a multilateral agreement. And this states that it regulates the service level between service providers, the minimum service level, but also how you can escalate a dispute. First of all, we do a lot of efforts for the service providers to handle this bilaterally. If they can't do so, then it will be escalated to the PEPL authorities that have engaged the contract with the service providers, and Open PEPL will try to mitigate that. But our resources in this area is very limited, so of course we can expect situations where this will go further into a legal procedure.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Næstur, þá vil ég bjóða Marino Njálsson frá Hewlett Packard Enterprise Security Services